Welcome back to Cursed Mining. No hardware today, but the start of something new. Long story short, I started a scholarship program or a small guild in AXIE INFINITY and want to document the whole process. This is the first video, so we have to answer some basic questions. Let's go. What is AXIE INFINITY even? Well, it's a game and more. Most people describe the game itself as a mixture of a creature game like Pokemon and a card game like Hearthstone, and I think that's a very accurate description. So it's a turn-based card game with animations and creatures on top of it, which they are a mixture of cute and maniac little battle and breeding beasts, but more about that in a bit. The catch is the creatures, so the AXIEs you play with are NFTs. And the in-game currencies you use and earn are cryptos. There are different ways you can earn by playing the game, but at the same time stuff like breeding AXIEs, and yes, you can actually create new NFTs, costs crypto. That means, say, if you don't like the AXIE you play with anymore, you can sell it for ETH or send it to a friend. To simplify it completely, that means many aspects of this game are volatile. That's the first little disclaimer, but we will talk more about risks later. Because you can earn with this game in a way that 2 hours of doing, say, your daily quest can beat minimum wage in many countries. That is the reason why the prices of the AXIEs themselves have escalated a little bit. The team we'll be looking at today set me back 0.6 ETH, which you can calculate for yourself depending on what the market says. That is a lot of money. You can of course find cheaper AXIEs, but of course desirable card combinations or pure gene AXIEs for breeding will set you back more. These are all topics we can talk about in the future, but here we come to the reason of this video. You need at least 3 AXIEs to have a team to play the game, which you just saw can be costly. Then again, one can earn not so bad income on the side by playing, and at the same time the day only has 24 hours. You might have an idea where this is getting to. So we have people on the one hand that might want to have exposure to NFTs or to NFT gaming, but don't have too much time for the actual gaming, like me. Or on the other hand, there could be people that have time for gaming or are gamers, but are not proficient in cryptocurrency or don't have the money to afford the AXIEs to play with. Lo and behold, that is how the scholarship system was born. It's kinda started with AXIE by accident and now has become a thing in more blockchain related games than AXIE, but AXIE is the biggest one. Some people also call it manager and player. So basically the manager owns the AXIEs and rents them out to a player, and then they split the earnings between the two of them. It's literally changing lives. And here a shout out to Blackpool, thanks to whom I even know about AXIE. They have more than 600 scholars by now, which is just amazing. And they were mentioned in last week's video, but there's a dedicated interview coming for Blackpool too. Shout out. That's basically what I've been doing. And you might ask why? I already mentioned a bit, I wanted exposure to an emerging, interesting field. Also, I think that it can be an interesting new way to onboard people to crypto. If you're not a hardware nerd like we miners are, or say number go up is your motivator for something like DeFi, I think gaming and NFTs can be easier to explain than some of the other stuff we do. So of course there are some risks too. The risk of the scholar themselves is only time, but there are a lot of sad stories where scholars get scammed. So the manager lets them rent out the AXIE and play, and then when payday comes, the manager disappears, changes name and email and ghosts them, which is a scam and sad. But if you have an honest manager or guild or scholarship, then the scholar's risk is only time. But the owner of the AXIEs of course has risk, so I'm taking on the risk in this experiment, so to say. Because if nobody cares for the game anymore, also prices of the AXIEs themselves would definitely drop. Oh, and the scholar can play with the rented AXIEs, but they could not, say, sell your NFT or breed with them or anything. So the AXIE owners are safe in that regard. So it's an emerging field, a new game, and there are slight changes from season to season to balance the game, which can affect exactly your team. So it's all pretty new, and that's why we're here to document it. so that you now have a basic explanation about what the game is about and what those scholarships are, let's talk about my state of what I've been doing. So during the explanation of the game, you saw me purchasing my second team actually, which is a bit of a more expensive team, I have to admit, because I got some kind advice from the Blackpool people. Shout out again. But I already had a team. It was a cheaper team to the old meta. And because I said I started a scholarship program, I actually do have one scholar by now who is playing. I will tell you a bit more about that in another video. Today is more about the whole setup of everything. So these two teams, with one being a bit more advanced, let's say it like that, cost me almost 1 Ethereum. To have 2 players basically in the game with good, or let's say average or above average cards. Of course you can go crazier, you can always go crazier in anything you do, but it's an experiment and we'll have to see how this plays out. I will show you the first games with a new team in a separate video, but I wanted to do a basic introduction to the whole topic, that you understand what this all is about. Last but not least, besides the game, there is some crypto stuff to talk about too. AXIE by now has their own sidechain to Ethereum called Ronin. The games themselves are not on there, but then are recorded on chain. And while making this video, the chain is still rather centralized, but is currently being built out. So there is the Katana DEX, which will look familiar to you if you ever used any automated market maker. So classical game here, users can provide liquidity in exchange for tokens. This has its advantages and disadvantages, but the difference here is the token you can farm here is not launched yet. And Ronin, what it's called, will power the whole chain of the same name. So basically, besides taking the risk of getting access to play, I dabbled my feet a bit further and want to see where this whole ecosystem goes. So you can also tell me what interests you the most, in game aspects or on chain aspects. That's where we'll leave it today. Sorry for not showing you the team in action yet. So I just synced them into their accounts. That means they are completely new, and I will show you a quick follow-up of the first step of that team in the game. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Of course, don't worry, this is not replacing my mining content. That's not replacing the DeFi tutorials we have from time to time. But I do think that gaming and blockchain can and will be huge. So it is something I want to feature on the channel. There are more games and more systems and craziness emerging every day. But there's also a lot of, let's say, vaporware and a lot of empty promises. It reminds me a lot of 2017 and ICOs, where there is promises and maybe a pretty NFT on top of those promises, which we didn't have in 2017, but many of those have never shipped anything. AXIE, it's hard to say if one is early or late for AXIE, because the game has already been out for a while, but it is the biggest in blockchain gaming right now. So I thought, let's dabble into it. Let me know what you think, what you would like to see more of, or if you made experiences yourself in the crazy world of blockchain gaming. Thank you very much for tuning in. I wish all the best to each and every one of you. Please subscribe for everything decentralized, be it crypto, mining, DeFi, or now also gaming. Happy mining, and bye!